Today's three true stories revolve around strange encounters in the desert. Story 1. Desert Phone Booth. In a remote part of the desert, a phone booth sat alone, partially buried in the sand near an old abandoned road. No one knows exactly how it got there or who installed it. It wasn't on any maps, and most locals believed it had been left there by mistake. Over the years, few people noticed it, and even fewer went to actually see it. The booth didn't work because it didn't have a cable or a headset, and people joked that it was just for decoration. But if anyone tried to use it, they would find the line was fuzzy. On January 15, 2002, a man named Alan, who lived in a small town near Las Vegas, saw the phone booth during a weekend trip through the desert. Alan was still grieving the loss of his wife, Rachel, who had died the previous year after a long battle with cancer. Driving through the desert was one of the few ways she felt close to him, as they had taken many road trips together before his illness. When Alan saw the kiosk, he had a strange urge to stop and check it out. As soon as he entered, the phone in the kiosk rang, startling him. Alan reached for the phone, but it rang before he could answer. The incident seemed so strange to him, and he couldn't help the strange feeling it left behind. In the months that followed, he thought about the abandoned phone booth, and eventually began to visit regularly. Even though nothing happened while he was there, it had become a little ritual for him, a quiet place to think and remember. On January 15, 2003, exactly 1 year after his first visit, Alan returned to the phone booth, pausing in the same spot. As soon as he entered, the phone rang again, and this time he answered. The voice on the other end was a low, static scratch, but it was undoubtedly Rachel's voice. Alan stood frozen, unable to believe what he was hearing. Rachel spoke quietly, as if they were sitting together, reminiscing about their life together. The line suddenly went dead, leaving Alan alone in silence. Alan drove home that night shaken and unsure of what he had just experienced. He couldn't help but wonder if he was imagining it or not. The words he had said were clear in his mind, but he wasn't sure they were real. Over the next year, he tried to figure it out, even searching the internet for stories, but he couldn't find any records of anyone else receiving calls from the booth. A few locals knew about the booth, but no one knew its origins or why it was there. Alan couldn't find an answer. On January 15, 2004, Alan was back in the desert again. Today was just like last year, clear skies and a cool breeze. The booth looked the same, damaged and half buried in the sand like a forgotten piece of another time. As he stepped inside, the phone rang again. This time the call was different. Rachel's voice grew weaker. The staff and other strange noises stopped. His words faded away, and he felt like someone else was listening on the line. Alan was bothered by the feeling that he wasn't alone in the call, and quickly ended the call, leaving the cabin feeling embarrassed. But Rachel's voice was so real that he couldn't stop thinking about it, and the hope that he would hear it one day clearly drove him into the desert. Alan prepared for the following January, hoping to prove his expertise. He even thought about telling a friend or two, but he was worried that they wouldn't understand or that he was losing his mind. On January 15, 2005, Alan returned to the phone booth again, this time taking the recording device with him. The same strange feeling overcame him as he approached, an eerie silence that seemed to surround the booth. He walked inside, picked up the phone, and waited for it to ring. When it did, she answered. Rachel's voice was clearer than ever, her tone calm but annoying. He told her he missed her and knew she was there every year. Then another voice joined the line, cold, calm, and firm. A new voice offered Alan a choice. He could restore Rachel to the way she was before she fell ill, but in return, he would have to give up his soul. Alan gripped the receiver tightly, his mind racing. He'd been coming to this place for 3 years, hoping to hear from Rachel again. Now his deepest desire was being offered to him, but at an incredible price. The line went silent, as Alan thought. Finally, he told the voice that he couldn't accept the offer. He said Rachel deserved peace, and he wasn't going to send her back just to put her through more suffering. The second voice fell silent, and then the line went dead. Alan left the cabin that night, frustrated, but confident that he had made the right decision. 2 months later, Alan decided to return to the cabin to see if it was still there. But when he got there, he found nothing but empty sand. The cabin had disappeared without a trace. Alan reported it to the local authorities, but without any evidence, nothing was investigated. The booth simply disappeared, leaving only memories and unanswered questions. To this day, people talk about the phone booth in the desert. Some say they've seen it, but it never stays in one place. Few believe it could be a tool of something dark that preys on people's deepest desires, offering impossible deals in exchange for the one thing stronger than fear, their hope. Stephen's commentary on camera. Me segue to story Heart of a Fallen Angel. In August 1997, treasure hunter Brian set out into the desert. He'd heard stories of hidden objects buried in the sand and was hoping to find something of value. Over the years, Brian spent a lot of time exploring deserts, forests, and mountains in search of relics and treasures that others said were lost. He knew there were many legends in the desert, stories of buried objects left behind by explorers, travelers, and sometimes even missionaries who had come to the area centuries ago. On the second day of his search, he was digging an old riverbed when his metal detector started beeping. The signal was strong, and after carefully digging through the sand and dirt, Brian found an old wooden box. He was used to finding scraps of metal or coins, but a full box was rare. He opened it carefully, expecting to see something valuable, but inside was nothing but a small box made of almost dark metal. He closed the box and saw that it was covered with strange engravings, feathers, wings, and a pair of sad eyes. It was also engraved, shaved with the inscription, "Heart of a Fallen Angel, do not open." The box was surprisingly warm when he picked it up, and as he held it, he noticed that the warmth seemed to pulsate. At first he thought he was imagining it. He tried to ignore the strange feeling, but the pulsing rhythm persisted. Brian packed the box up and put it in his truck. He thought about leaving it behind, but he felt a strange urge to take it with him. As he drove toward a nearby town, he felt the box's heartbeat seem stronger when he was alone, and he noticed that his heartbeat sometimes coincided with the box's. The next day, Brian kept the box in his. A charming and inquisitive narrator with an American accent leads a magical adventure suitable for adults in the world of horror stories. His truck, as he drove around town looking for supplies, he noticed that animals were acting strangely around his car. Stray dogs that normally roamed the area kept their distance. Birds seemed to avoid flying near him. People he walked by looked at him nervously and crossed the street to avoid him. Some whispered or hissed, looked at him with fear or suspicion. He tried not to notice, but the reactions were too strong to ignore. The box affected everyone who came near it, and Brian realized he was being treated as if he were carrying something dark. As he continued his journey with the box, his health deteriorated. He found it more difficult to rest and was off so nervous that he could not sleep properly. He felt weak, as if the box was somehow floating as he tried to put the box in another room to go some distance. He felt a sharp pain in his chest, as if his heart was aching. The pain stopped when he returned to the box. He began to understand that the pulsing he felt was not a trick of his imagination. It had affected the beat of his heart and thus corresponded to the rhythm of the box. A strange desire to stay close to the box grew stronger. He tried to position his truck in different positions, but the same feeling of retreat always returned. He felt tired, and the pounding of the box grew louder each night. Now it was impossible for him to ignore how he was controlling his pulse. Brian tried to put the box down and walk out, but each time he felt the same painful tightening in his chest. Finally, Brian realized that he needed to get rid of the box. He drove back into the desert and returned to the same riverbed where he had first found it. He tried to bury it in the sand, hoping to leave it behind, but the sand seemed to slide away as if the earth itself had rejected the box. The more he dug, the more the box remained exposed. Frustrated and frightened, he took the box to a nearby archaeological site, a place he had visited during his research. He looked back to see faint wing-shaped shadows moving across the ground around the box, circling the area. Sensing he was being watched, he quickly walked to his truck and drove away, not daring to look back. After that, Brian returned to his normal life, but he couldn't completely escape what had happened. He developed a strange heart condition where his heart rate slowed down and then raced at an odd rate. Doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with him and couldn't find the cause of the irregular heartbeat. Brian became increasingly withdrawn, moving to a small coastal town where he lived alone and rarely spoke to anyone. Neighbors said they often saw him sitting quietly on his porch at night, staring into the darkness as if waiting for something. Stephen's commentary on camera. Me Segue 3. Desert House Story. In April 1997, a team of archaeologists led by Dr. Michael went into the desert in search of ancient human settlements. Their job seemed simple, just digging and recording what they found. But on the third day, they discovered something unexpected. Beneath the sand, a completely intact house. Unlike ancient ruins, it wasn't broken or deeply buried. It appeared to have been built recently. The house was in excellent condition. The wood was smooth and untouched by mold or sand, as if no time had passed since it was built. The metal fixtures shone without rust. The shelves inside held small glass ornaments, all clear and frosted, as if they had been recently polished. There was no dust or sand inside, which was odd for something in the desert. When the team first discovered the house, they documented everything. They measured every room and tried to plan the interior of the house. It appears to have had 3 main rooms with a central area leading to smaller spaces. There was no door to the outside, just a window. A charming and inquisitive narrator with an American accent leads a magical adventure suitable for adults in the world of horror stories. A 37-year-old American man tells scary stories. A small corridor connecting each room. The team was unable to determine where the main entrance originally stood. One unusual feature of the house is that none of the walls were marked with paint, carvings, or any of the art found in other excavations. The interior was bare and plain, making it difficult to date or understand its use. The team found no records of a civilization that could have built such a house in the desert, and it did not match any known historical sites. Everything in the house was unusual. When Dr. Michael picked up a small stone with strange symbols on it, he felt a strong nausea. Another archaeologist, Dare Stevens, felt dizzy when he touched the glass object as if it was being removed from the body. As they tried to document their findings, strange things happened. The house they photographed was empty. Despite the camera notes about letters or plans would disappear from their notebooks. Even the files stored on their laptops would mysteriously disappear. It was as if the house was losing evidence of its own accord. Over the next few days, they noticed that the house itself was changing. The corridors are longer and shorter than before, and some rooms seem to have changed in size. One night, Dr. Karen discovers a small windowless room filled with strange sculptures and dried plants. No one has ever seen this room before, and by the next day it is gone. They tried to map the house, but each time they try, the layout seems different. As time passed, several unexplained events occurred. Dr. Stephen woke up one morning and realized he had lost track of time. He remembered entering the room to take notes, and then the clocks faded from his memory. He was standing in the central room, although he could not remember how he got there. Other team members began reporting similar experiences, each with varying details, but all involving lost time and strange locations. The team also noticed that they were feeling increasingly tired each day, despite sleeping well at night. They would wake up feeling like they were working non-stop. Dr. Michael felt extremely tired, and his symptoms worsened over time. When he tried to talk about his discoveries, he often had difficulty remembering what he had seen, even when looking at his own notes. When he read his diary entries, he realized that entire sections had been omitted or replaced with details he did not remember adding. Dr. Michael began having disturbing dreams at night. In his dreams, he saw the house as alive with mysterious figures walking the halls, performing strange rituals. Every morning he would wake up tired. He also reported hearing whispers in a language he did not recognize. The other team members would become disoriented, lose hours of time, and wake up in different rooms with no memory of how they got there. Something similar when dealing with another object, a smooth stone with a symbol she had never seen before. She felt disoriented and had to sit down, her balance suddenly falling. The team encountered problems outside their home ground as well. Their GPS devices went down without explanation, and several units stopped working. After they returned home, cameras and recording devices would be turned off. They replaced the batteries, but the devices kept failing. When they tried to record their findings on a laptop, the files stored in the document were either corrupted or simply disappeared, creating more confusion. As they prepared to leave, Dr. Michael insisted on taking one last photo of the house. The team gathered outside and took a picture, hoping it would finally work. But as soon as the light went out, a sandstorm suddenly appeared, blowing dust everywhere. They had to cover it up so they wouldn't be blown away. When the storm stopped, they looked back, and the house was gone. Not a trace, not a foundation, not a shred. The desert sand was soft, as if nothing had ever been there. When they returned to their research institute, Dr. Michael and his team tried to tell people what they had seen, but without any evidence, no one believed them. Dr. Michael became obsessed with proving that the house was real. His reputation was damaged, and he lost his job. He spent his life searching for evidence, publishing articles about a haunted house in the desert that most scientists dismissed as an accident. The other team members stopped talking about what they saw, and the details of the house slowly became kind of a legend. Dr. Michael spent his last years searching for any trace of the house, but he never found it. Over time, the story of the mysterious desert house became a ghost that was told only to those who dared to believe it. And so the story ends. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button to receive all the stories. Like, share, and rate the story in a comment. Thank you for watching.